Great to see everybody tonight again. Another strange meeting tonight over Zoom, but hopefully everything will go well. We have a great presentation for you all tonight from the HSENI. So hopefully everybody will enjoy it.
I just want to say thank you for having us this evening, and for Sarah for setting everything up for us. So I'm just going to try, and I'm going to obviously give a wee presentation, but really what the next wee half hour I want to talk to you is about a wee bit about the Mental Wellbeing at Work Advisory Service and what kind of our role is, and then I'll talk to you as well then about the management standards approach that is a best practice approach really that's known to try and help organisations manage work-related stress in their own organisations. So I have a wee presentation up. I'm just going to try and share my screen. Okay, so like I say, we work for the Mental Wellbeing at Work Advisory Service. So we're myself and Selena are part of that team. David is also another advisor on the team. And part of our remit really is to go out and speak to organisations. We attend a lot of events and maybe deliver sessions like this. We also, part of our role is actually to coach and mentor organisations through this approach called the management standards approach. So the thing I really wanted to do was make you a wee bit aware of obviously why organisations, and especially even now, especially with COVID, as mental health as a big topic there. We focus more solely on work-related stress, but this is an approach that you or any organisation can adopt into their own organisation. And we have lots of tools and templates there to help you. Either we can coach or mentor you through this process, or if you have someone within your own organisation, it's no reason to say why you can't do this yourself. So really it's just to talk about why and then the how you can do it. And after that today as well, then you can always get in contact with myself or Selena or David and the mental wellbeing team to give you a wee bit of advice on it. So just to make a wee start here on the presentation. Okay, so we're going to start off really just, what is work-related stress? We hear that mentioned, we hear stress, the word stress used an awful lot. It's probably an actually overused word, but in the HSENI, I know part of our remit, we are focusing on that work-related stress. Yes, we do recognise that there's stress outside of work and obviously inside work, but we're focusing on that work-related stress. So just to start off even with the definition, the HSE and GB, they have actually said that work-related stress is the adverse reaction that people would have to excessive pressures or other types of demand that's actually placed upon them. So really the key words there that we're talking is that actually the adverse reaction and those excessive pressures. I think you probably maybe would agree when we would say, yeah, we do need pressures, we do need targets, we need things in our own lives and our own work to actually work towards and deadlines, and that can make us thrive and perform really well. But HSE make a clear distinction between these pressure and stress. Pressure can be a motivating factor, but stress, and particularly in the form of work-related stress, is never good for you. So that's one of the ways we would look at that, is that it's actually not a good thing when it's in the workplace. And we would like to then tell you about this methodology that you can use to try and manage that within your workplaces as well. So the adverse reaction that people have to excessive pressures or other types of demand that are placed upon them in the workplace. So why should we really manage work-related stress? Well, the business case kind of really speaks for itself. We do have the financial reasons, which is very important to organisations. We have the moral responsibilities as well that organisations can pay attention to. And again, obviously we're the regulator, so you have that legal duty. Now, I know it's 7 o'clock in the evening and I'm not going to bore you with all the legal duties, but I just wanted to draw a few wee points with regards to the legislation and what we should be paying attention to as organisations. Now, it is important to tell you here at this stage, there's no piece of legislation that specifically mentions work-related stress. However, under the following pieces of legislation, it does place responsibilities really on organisations, and I'm sure you're probably aware of these pieces of legislation. We have the Health and Safety at Work Northern Ireland Order, and basically what that actually does, it actually places a duty on employers to take all reasonable precautions to protect the health and safety of their employees. Then we also have the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 2000, and again, Regulation 3 places that duty on employers to risk assess for things, hazards to health, and also including what was mental health. And I'm sure you all know at the moment that's such a very, very big topic out there, and that a lot of organisations are thinking, what can we do to try and do to protect the mental health of our employees within the organisation. And then the third one we have here is called the Health and Safety HSE Management Standards and the Management Standards Approach. Now, basically what this is, it's a best practice. Now, it's not the only way to do it, but it's known as the best practice guidance on how to you can actually, as an organisation, put in a suitable and sufficient risk assessment in place within your organisation. So it's really just like a set of principles that you as the employers can use to help you comply with the law. So those are the kind of pieces of and the legal reasons why we should be managing work-related stress. Moral responsibilities, again, there's lots of reasons. You know, if there's something that you can do for your workers and your employees, then we really should be doing it within the organisation. So there's a number of reasons why we should be looking at it morally. There is proven links there that there are, proven information there that there are links between pre-existing medical conditions and work-related stress. And you know, we all have different coping strategies. How maybe something that might trigger me maybe would not trigger somebody else in the workplace. But it's something to be aware of as a manager. But what you might be seeing, and especially in your line of work and the core, and what you might be seeing as managers, even our employers, you might be seeing what some people might, if they're suffering from work-related stress, might resort to what we would call maladaptive coping strategies or negative coping strategies. So that could be even anything from excess smoking to alcohol to drugs or to, you know, spending, shopping, anything, those things, because we all are individuals and we all cope differently. So again, it's something for you to be aware of in the organisation, and especially if you're working in quarries or if you have people operating heavy machinery, etc. That's something that would be very, very important to be aware of, because unfortunately it could lead to accidents or incidents in your workplace, and you don't want that as well. Again, you have the societal health within the organisation or within within society, and we have a couple of wee examples as well there of even from historical context of, I know these are bigger organisations, but they date back to even the 1800s, whereas these other companies actually were doing things at that stage back in the 1800s by putting, you know, things in places even like canteens and gyms, even things within for their organisation. You know, to try and help their employees and help them within the organisation. So again, it's something that's important to even think about within your own organisations. Is there something that you can do? But all these things can be put under the label of corporate social responsibility. And I know lots of organisations, you know, are looking at this. What can we do to give back, or what, you know, the corporate social responsibility, which successful businesses increasingly recognise that it's very, very important. So again, it's just important to be aware of that moral responsibility there. Is there something you can do, and if you can you do that to help the mental health even of your employees? And then the big one, folks, obviously, is that business and financial. I understand you're all trying to run businesses and trying to keep, you know, up with competitors and try to keep keep people in work, and especially now, which is difficult, even if people are maybe being furloughed, and you know, so it's very, very important as well how this can affect businesses financially. But I just want to throw a couple of figures at you here, and these are actually 2018-19, and for the business and financial reasons. In 18-19, now we're waiting on the new figures for this year, and it should be released now within over the next week or two. 12.8 million working days were lost in 18-19 due to work-related stress, anxiety and depression. Now these figures come, as I say, from the HSE. They actually come from the Labour Force Survey, but this is the information that they're getting back. They also mentioned that if someone does say go off with work-related stress, the average time that they will be off, or the average days lost, would be approximately 21.2 working days. And again, thinking of that, even how that might affect your own businesses, if someone does go off with work-related stress, they could be off for like at least a month or around that. So that's the average working day that they worked out in 18-19. 44% of all work-related ill health cases were due to work-related stress, anxiety and depression. And again, 54% of all working days lost due to ill health were also because of work-related stress, anxiety and depression. And a figure that's not really on there, but they do mention, and you probably are familiar with this term, is presenteeism. And that's when maybe someone comes to work, but maybe they're not feeling up to, their full health. They're not maybe working to their maximum capacity and that they're able to, because they're feeling, not feeling well, or maybe suffering from stress. So again, what presenteeism the figure can be actually, the figure that they have given us in HSE is that it can be up to as high as 33% reduction in productivity. And again, if you're in a production-driven environment, that can be quite, quite an impact. Now, in Northern Ireland context, we've got this figure for 18-19, 16,000 employees, Northern Ireland employees in 18-19 were affected by work-related stress or off work because of work-related stress, anxiety, or depression again. So I think those figures really speak for themselves, and you can see that it can have quite an impact on anybody that's trying to run a business and trying to keep people in work. That would be your legal reasons and your business and moral reasons. So I just really wanted to tell you now a wee bit about the how, and how maybe you can use this methodology, the management standards approach, and this methodology to try and manage work-related stress within your own organisations. So what are the management standards? I mentioned earlier, a set of conditions that if they're managed correctly in organisations, they can reflect high levels of health, well-being and organisational performance. And I think every organisation would be striving for that in their workplace. And they basically are there's basically 6 key work areas, the standards themselves. So if you even think of doing a risk assessment even within your workplaces or whatever whether it's an office or outside of the office and in the work areas, you'll be looking at identifying what the hazards are. These have actually already been done for you. So I want you to think about this as a risk assessment, and think about this in your own organisation with regards to each of the standards. So the 6 standards are demands, control, support, relationship, role, and change. Now, thinking in your own organisations, these are the 6 key areas of work that, if they're not managed well, can create high levels of work-related stress, or they can actually create or even exacerbate work-related stress. But what do you think even in your own organisations for each of the standards? So the first one there with regards to demands. If you think about the demands even on the individuals, even with yourselves in your own workplace and your own role, that's things like your workload, the deadlines that you have to work to, the pace and intensity of the work that you're doing, the work scheduling, and even especially in the quarry industries and places like that, obviously there's lots of outdoor work. The physical environment can also, place pressures and stresses on the individual as well. Control, and if you're thinking of control, basically think of the level of control even in your own organisation with your own role. Have you got the authority to make decisions? If you think of autonomy at one end of the scale to be micromanaged at the other end of the scale? And again, if that is happening within your own organisation, someone with very little work to do can actually be quite stressful for somebody who is as well. And if you think of being micromanaged, maybe not being able to make any decisions or things, that can also be quite stressful for individuals as well. It could be a trigger for them. The third one there, folks, is support. So when you're thinking of support, I want you to think of, even in your workplaces, what level of support do you have? What level of support do your employees have? Is it managerial support, organisational support? But also be thinking about, not only managerial support, you want to think about peer support within your organisations. Have you good peer support with colleagues? Do they have team meetings? Do they have, is there practical and emotional support even within there if someone needs it in your organisation? The next one there you'll see is relationships. And again, what I want you to think about in your own organisation, does your organisation promote positive working relationships? To try and avoid conflict, or does it deal with unacceptable behaviour? Are there things like, bullying, harassment policies in place? Or even advisors, sometimes those are the different things. Well, think about what you have in your own organisation with regards to these things. It's really about the culture and ethos of the organisation there when you're talking about relationships. The next one then is role. When you're thinking about role, again, with regards to your own roles, are you clear what's expected of you in your own role? Are your employees clear what's expected, what you expect from them? Again, if there is a bit of conflict or ambiguity there, that can cause work-related stress. And I just always think about one of the examples, even in my own team a number of years ago. We had an admin support who was actually doing work for two different teams. And it did cause a wee bit of kind of conflict there, wherein, for that person, how do we, prioritise, who do I do the work for, especially at busy times. So even something as simple as that, just we're trying to sort that out for that person. We didn't want that to become an issue. We tried to kind of prevent it then from happening again whenever we realised that it was an issue. And then the last one there, folks, is change, and that's the 6th standard there. Now, with regards to change, like we're well aware, change is a good thing. Change, for some people, people like change, some people don't. But when you're running an organisation, it's very important change to keep up with competitors and, even just to keep ahead of the game, or change, sometimes maybe different ways of working you have to implement. So the change is unavoidable. Change, it's not about a particular change though in your organisation. It's actually about the process of how change is managed within the organisation. I want you to think, even in your organisations at the moment, how is change communicated? If you do have new ways of working, do workers feel involved? Are they, if you have new technology or any new strategies, are they consulted even for ideas or things like that? So again, it's just something to think about within your own organisations. How are you doing at the moment with regards to these 6 standards? So that's the 6 key areas of work that, if they're managed well, can create high levels of health and well-being, and if it's managed within the teams as well, can try and create a good working environment. Why should you use them? So this is a wee bit of a sales pitch. Why should you use the management standards? Well, what they do, they actually deal with work-related stress at that top level, at an organisational level. We like to focus as well on prevention. So we're, with regards to getting a risk assessment in place, and I'm sure a lot of you do that day and daily in your own roles, but we try to focus on that prevention, try to prevent it happening. We're not going to eliminate it completely, work-related stress, but what can we do to try and prevent it from happening or reoccurring again and again? Even like if you think back as far, well, Benjamin Franklin a long time ago said an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So if we could try and think of a risk assessment being that primary preventative measure to try and prevent work-related stress from happening. The risk assessment approach, I'm going to take you through that. You're probably familiar with the hierarchy of control, whereas, if you can't eliminate it, try to reduce the impact of it. If you can't reduce, so again, it's just trying to control that risk source in your risk assessment. The management standards themselves, folks, actually are very good for promoting active discussion. So if we were going to work with you on the take you through the process or try and coach and mentor you through this process, it's a very good way of promoting active discussion with your employees, because without them, this process, we need them in the process. So we need the employees, we need your line managers, we need trade unions if you have them, we need everybody, because it's for everybody's benefit. And it's because it's for their long-term well-being. And so that's one of the things that we were saying. This actually promotes active discussion, because you actually would be doing focus groups and talking to your staff and getting them to fill in surveys, etc. But I'll explain that now when I'm going through the next few slides. The actual management standards themselves allow you to benchmark performance as well. So the tool, what actually it does, you can do this risk assessment and do the survey, and you'll have those figures. So again, when you go to do the risk assessment, when you're reviewing it, you will have the figures, and you'll be able to look back at where you were 2 years ago or whatever. So you'll be able to, the tool allows you to do that as well. Recognise as a best practice approach. We're just saying it's not the only way to do it. You may be doing things already within your organisation, which are great, but it's known as this management standards, which was devised, by the way, back in 2004 by HSE and GB, but it was actually devised by a team of psychologists and psychiatrists. So it's not something, that is actually, it came back devised in 2004. It's available in 27 different languages. So it's out there, it's on the website, there's lots of information for you there, and it's free, a free tool. It's simple and it's easy to use. And we would always try to say, with risk assessment, try and keep it as simple as you can. And again, if you do need assistance, myself, Selena and David will be there to guide and mentor you through the process. So I want you to think about, even at the minute within your own workplace, what interventions are you currently doing? So you may have a wellbeing strategy. You may have a stress policy. You may do things like I heard John mention there about the golf. I don't know whether, John, that was something that you do within your own organisation, but you may do things with health promotion. And that's fantastic if you're doing those things within your organisation. But what I wanted to make clear where we stand with regards to interventions. HSENI focus on that primary intervention where we're looking at get your risk assessment in place, get your stress policy in place, try and prevent or control that risk at source. The secondary interventions are more looking at the individual. So lots of organisations at the moment are doing things, or maybe in the past have done kind of initiatives like providing stress management training, mental health first aiders, resilience training. So you may, but that's looking at the individual and trying to help the individual cope. Those things, if you're doing them, that's great, but they are known as what we would call secondary interventions. And then the final one there is the tertiary interventions. The tertiary interventions are all about the rehabilitation really of, and just about the treatments basically and the rehabilitation of distressed individuals. So for example, maybe you have had someone come to you within your workplace and suffering from work-related stress. You may have an employee assistance program that maybe offers counselling services or things like that, or you may have occupational health specialists in your organisations, but they are all known as tertiary interventions. So where we fit in is that primary intervention. And what we would encourage you to do, if you're doing secondary and tertiary, fantastic, keep doing them if you can afford to do them within your organisations. But we would be encouraging you to have a blend of the three approaches. So we'd to have a blend of the primary, secondary and tertiary. And that's what we'd be encouraging you to do. And maybe as part of a wider wellbeing strategy, you might be doing that already. So I want to just take you very quickly through the actual risk assessment process. And just before, because it will probably very quickly through it, I just want to let you know, we do an in-depth, it was a 2.5 hour session on how to actually do this process. So we go into these things obviously in more detail. And we offer, we're obviously doing them with webinars at the moment. So we do this one, the organisational approach, but we also do a line manager workshop, which also touches on the health and safety, the management standards, the 6 management standards, and how an line manager can use those within the team. But this is the organisational approach, and I'm just going to take you through the risk assessment process. So I'm sure you're familiar with the risk assessment process, 5 steps to risk assessment. The bit in the middle here, folks, preparing the organisation. Before you embark, I want you to think of this as a project. Before you even embark on any project, it's very, very important for this to be a success. You need to prepare your organisation, and we can work with you on that and helping you what to say, or what we have template letters and things that you can send out to your staff. But if we were working with you, we would be working with maybe like a person, if maybe there's a champion within your organisation that we would be working with, that would be relaying all the information back. You don't want to land a survey just on your employees' desks or ask them to attend something and then maybe not know exactly what that's about. So it's about preparing them and letting them know that you're taking part as we're doing a survey, and health and safety executive maybe are coming in to do that for you, or and help you out with that. So again, that preparing is key. That's really like a step 0. The step 1 has done for you because it's the 6 management standards. The step 2 then, I'm going to take you through these, is where you're gathering your quantitative information, and how the HSE management standards suggest that you do this is by using a 35 multiple choice questionnaire. Step 3 then is talking to your staff, they're doing focus groups. Step 4 is recording your findings and developing an action plan. And your step 5, again, is monitoring and reviewing. So I'm going to just quickly take you through each of these 5 steps. Step 1, we had already mentioned, that's your 6, identifying your risk factors. That's your 6 key areas of work that can cause or exacerbate work-related stress. So your demands, control, support, relationship, role, and change. So that's already done for you. I want to talk to you about step 2. Step 2 is you need to gather some information, but again, for organisations, you kind of need to think, well, is this an issue within our organisation? Because you need to be prepared if you're going to get some information back as well about maybe in some things maybe that you mightn't want to hear. But this is really just issuing a questionnaire out to staff. We have a couple of ways of doing that. We can do it via, we're using SurveyMonkey because we can do it online. We set that up on our end, and we would send it to yourselves to issue to your staff members. We also could do it by hard copy, or we also can use, and especially maybe if you're in the quarry industry or organisations where you have a lot of field staff, we use a system called Quizdom, where it's just a wee handheld thing. It's like kind of, like pushing the answers, the answers 1 to 5 and what they're responding. We can gather the information that way as well for you. We would recommend when you're doing it, you think about demographics, because that can enrich the data that you're getting back. So it might be by, length of service, maybe gender, whatever, but we would talk to you about selecting those. And the one big thing about this, when you're collecting this data, it is important to tell your staff, the information comes back, it's completely anonymous and confidential. And we would find that would be one of the selling points for this as well, and trying to get your staff to engage, is that it's anonymous and confidential, and we don't know who replies back what in their survey. Once you've got that quantitative information, you can't just leave it there. We would encourage you to actually do what we call get the qualitative information and facilitate focus groups. Okay. And really, you can't speak to everyone, but focus groups can give people a chance. Maybe that, somebody that's out, maybe a field staff member of field staff, how often do they get to speak to the managing director, or how often do they get to speak, to a senior member of staff? Maybe use a different in your own organisation, whatever way you've it organised. You maybe do have regular meetings like that, but it's just important that, it's to get to talk to the people and get to find out what are the underlying issues that come back, and the reasoning for their responses and the quantitative and the survey. So you can't speak to all staff, roughly around 20%, kind of keep it around 90 minutes. But again, it was trying to keep it, if anything's said, it's getting it to be anonymous and confidential. We have invitation letters we can give you. The facilitator has an important role, as does the note taker. And it just means that the facilitator, if there's a note taker there, facilitator can actively listen to what the employees are saying. And as well, the note taker can also be a person who, to make sure that the information has been interpreted in the correct way. So there are just a few key points for the focus groups. Again, we go into more detail on this in the workshop. So in step 4, you've got your survey information, you've got your focus group information. Now it's important to use that piece of information that you have and any other pieces of information. So in your own organizations, you might have things like other surveys that have been taken place. You might have, say, for example, exit interviews. You might have grievance procedure or grievances, maybe any information that you can get even from your HR, absence data, things like that. Use all that information and take forward your action plan and develop that action plan, which would be developed and taken forward by a steering group, which I can tell you a wee bit more about if you go through the process. So that would be developing your action plan. And the last, like any other risk assessment that you're doing, it's important to not just leave it there. It's important to go back and monitor and review it. And if, for example, that you do anything or implement new procedures or anything, that you might have quick hits. So you might be just a matter of, issuing out a stress survey. That might be a quick hit, or not stress survey, or a stress policy. You're going to have your shorter term goals, but you're also going to have things like your absence data and things like that. If you wanted to improve those things, could be a longer term. So it's important that you're aware that there are going to be things that you can sort out quickly, but maybe others that are going to take longer term. So that continuous improvement then with any risk assessment is very, very important. And if you do anything, update your action plan. And again, communicate if you can. The importance of this project is making sure that you're communicating that information back out to your staff, because they know that you're committed to the process. And they like to see, you could even have something like, you said, we did, something like that, even just to communicate the messages out there. And with any risk assessment, risk assessment, might have to be reviewed annually, or if an accident or incident or something happens within your workplace, because it takes a wee bit longer to embed this process. I recommended that this is reviewed on a 24 months, every 2 years rather, than the annually. So that's just a wee bit about that. Benefits of using it, folks, and I know it's probably very, very quickly going through this. It demonstrates that good practice, the best practice approach. It's a step-by-step risk assessment approach. It allows you to assess the current situation. So it's like what we would say sometimes, like taking the temperature in your organisation. How are we actually doing in our organisation with regards to work-related stress? Is it something we don't want to think about, or is it something, and especially now, even with the like of what's happened with the pandemic this year, are people, suffering from work-related stress, and is it a good time to do this? We need to find out, or what can we do to try and help in that situation. So it allows you to assess that current situation by doing that survey, doing your focus groups, and the other techniques as well. It promotes active discussion. Again, like I said, it gives your employees the chance as well to do, talk and to find out maybe the underlying problems. And again, I should have said with regards to the focus groups, folks, anytime that we have held the focus groups, when someone's coming into a focus groups, it's not a griping session, and it shouldn't be. So the facilitator is very important that they're controlling that. You're there to talk about the 6 management standards and the demands of people's jobs, the control, etc. But when people do come up with things in the focus groups, one of the things that we would do is come back and say, okay, well, can you give me a solution to that? So it's all about finding solutions and letting the employees as well come up with the solutions. So again, that's the kind of things then we would be feeding back then to the organisation. Long-term things can reduce sick absence. This whole process is for the long-term well-being of staff. So again, that's where it's important to get that across to the employees as well, if you're going to embark on doing this project. It allows you to benchmark performance as well, I mentioned, and again, it helps you comply with the law. So that can be the main benefits that we will be talking about when you're actually doing this, if you're going to do this approach within your own organisation. So there's the 5 steps. So I was a bit of a whistle-stop tour through that. I just wanted to mention, folks, we have a wealth of information on our website. We also have different things of guidance. If you find that you're able to do this in your own organisation, there is a workbook that takes you through the step-by-step approach. We also have this other guidance that we're dealing with for organisations. We're actually updating that at the moment. But we have also done these recent publications. One is called the Talking Toolkit. And this is actually a resource we would promote it on our line manager workshop, but it's not to say, and you can use it within the organisation. And again, it's trying to get you to start that conversation with your employees. So it's broken down into the 6 key management standard areas, the demands, control, and it's just a template that managers can use with their staff if they need to have that conversation. We also did another wee one there, mental well-being at work at home, because like a lot of us, I don't know about yourselves, but with the pandemic, we were all forced into a position of working at home, which also brought its own stresses. And if anybody's like myself and Selena, we were trying to homeschool as well as work, as well as doing webinars, which is definitely challenging. But again, that was just another piece of guidance. So if you have anybody in that position, those are all free to use. They're all available to download on our website. And I have included a few links, and I can get Sarah and John this wee presentation if you want me to send it out to you. We have on our website, we have, I say, 27 something different resources for the actual management standards. So templates for focus groups, templates for the survey, and you can take those and rebrand them in your own, take those templates and rebrand them for your own organisation if you're going to do this yourself, or even if we're going to be helping you through the process. And then the last link there, folks, I just wanted to tell you about was we recently, and maybe some of you have seen it, myself and Selena and David recently, as part of the team, had done a video which is now available on this via this link. It's on our YouTube site, and it's basically telling you a wee bit more about the mental wellbeing work advisory service, and telling you a wee bit more about the standards and what we actually do, or the workshops that we run. So again, if you want to go and look at that, it is 17, I'll pre-warn you, 17 minutes long. So, but it's just to let you know what the service is about and what we offer. So that lets you if you want to come back and then get in contact with yourself or any of the other advisors as well. So that is there for you to have a wee look at as well. And I think that's me basically, probably taking up 34 minutes, I think.
That was great, Claire. Thank you very much. I'm sure some of the guys maybe have some questions.
I probably should actually mention as well, just we do, and I know Selena covers this on the wee video I was mentioning there. We run that workshop that takes you more detail on that actual approach. So we talk you obviously through the whole process. Where resources permit, I know a number of years ago before I joined, the advisors would have went on and done the whole process for organisations, taking you through the 5 steps, doing the focus groups and things. I suppose because of resources, and it is quite it's resource intense really, to do that. If we have the resource at the moment, we don't take you through the full process, but what we can do is possibly host the survey and give you back a report, with regards to the information that we get back. So we do a workshop on that, but we also do a workshop specifically for line managers, again, based on the HSE management standards and how the line managers can use the management standards to try and manage within their teams, the demands of people's jobs, the control, the support, that element of it. And then the other thing that we're actually working on, we're actually doing a burnout and fatigue workshop at the moment. We're hoping to pilot it actually now very, very soon, and then we will be releasing that to the public as well. So that was just another couple of things that I mentioned that we are doing as well, John.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, I think from our point of view, in our company, the problem, it's not a problem, but it's knowing where to start in this thing. We all know how to do risk assessments and things like that and plan. It's knowing how to start into something, a project like this. That was really helpful tonight, and knowing that you are there and in support of that.
Definitely, also, we're there in the background.
Also know that at the HSE, at Brian Price on, and they're actually going to be doing the workshops on line management.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
And there'll be a note going out to members very, very shortly, and to all quarries, not just members, all quarry companies. And I think the first one's the 9th of September or 9th of December, and for County Down, but it will be over Zoom.
That's right. So that's at the workshop as well. We've won. I think we've won December, January, and I think with another one February. So I can't remember the dates now. So I don't know. You can remember.
Yeah, the 9th of December is the first one. You have it in the diary.
So yeah, we are. So that workshop is more focusing, as obviously with the line manager, getting them, to have an understanding of the management standards and how they can use that, because line manager has that important role there, and they're kind of caught in the middle, if you know what I mean. So they have an important role there to play as well in trying to manage their teams. And again, this is only information that we have, that we're trying to give employers and line managers the tools to have, and the confidence, obviously, to have that conversation with their members of staff, especially if they feel that they're suffering from work-related stress. And it's really trying to prevent that member of staff going off, and so basically ending up going off sick. Because you've seen the stats earlier on, we were talking about, if someone does go off, the average stats from 18-19 there, where they were going to be off 21.2 working days. So it's trying to try and keep that person at work, and you can use that talking toolkit. The line managers can use that talking toolkit then to have the conversation with their staff member to try and see where, if it's a work problem and if it is work-related stress, and kind of trying to identify if it's work or if it's something maybe was outside work. So obviously legally, if it's in work, we have to do something about it. If it's outside of work, maybe legally, morally, you might want to do something to try and keep that person and support that person to try and prevent them going off from work-related stress. So if that information is there, we're just trying to get the information out there to assist and help line managers.
Yeah, I think the idea of putting out the surveys to the employees, anonymous, I think that's really a great idea for being the first. So trying to get everybody knowing what's going on, because if you go to ask somebody, straight out about stress wise and things like that, it's quite difficult subject to tackle. Unless you know the person extremely well, and they're confident enough to do that. So yeah, to put out the surveys, I think, is anybody, say Pat Breeden are big into this, I would think, and Northstone, I'm sure, are doing stuff, are they?
Well, we did do surveys last year on things, so we did, with this year's very good. This particular survey, I'm sure, is very good, Just a question I was going to ask there, from a manager's point of view, is we're working with the same people all the time, and sometimes you say to somebody, well, how's things going today, or what way is things going? Is there any particular signs maybe you would maybe need to look out for, or anything like that there, is there?
Patrick, we actually, I don't know whether you're going to be attending the workshops now, but that's one of the things that we would do on the line manager workshop. And it's again, it's just, we're not health professional. Well, I'm not a health
No,
professional.
I understand that there. Yes, yes.
But but that's what we were actually saying to line managers. But even if they could try and spot signs and symptoms, we actually do kind of a wee what we call like a thing with the line managers on the course. We would actually, it's just an exercise really, just to say, with regards to what do you think would be a physical sign of behavior in someone, what might be, do you know what I mean? So we would kind of get them to come up with ideas, and then we would obviously go through that with them. So it's getting them to think, gosh, I never thought of, there's obviously things like high blood pressure and things like that you can't spot, not necessarily, or maybe if somebody's having palpitations, but it's to get them to think, you know what, if I do see something, it's okay to ask the person, are they okay? Or, but we would always say, look, listen, yes, we know we're not health professionals, but you're still okay to ask someone, are they okay? And try and spot that. Maybe it's a change in behavior, from somebody's different from their normal behavior, or how they would normally behave at work. And it could be something just as subtle as that. So it's again, we would actually tell the line managers, try and look out for the signs and symptoms. And again, just, have that conversation with them. And they might not want to speak to you directly, but even if you can, we would say, look, you could always assign them to, if you do have, say, mental health first aiders, or, if they want to speak to someone, and again, encourage them to speak to their GP. So we do that actually, Patrick, in the line manager workshop.
Oh, brilliant. These are very good.
So
I think there's an interesting concept there. I work for Northstone and Stephen Horner there as well, and Stephen is one of our mental health first aiders. But
yeah,
after listening to this, I think we're quite reactionary, in the sense that there are the mental health training, that the guys go through, the whole the black dog video and stuff like that. Mental health first aiders are there, and the guys have access to Health Shield and counsellors and stuff like that there. But it's very interesting the difference between that, stopping the fire from starting rather than trying to put it out. So that's an interesting concept. I think especially the workshops for the line managers.
I suppose there's the way we would be looking at it there, and you have things already in place. That's what I was trying to get you to think, what do you already have within your own organisations? And we would find that that's exact the same as a lot. But say, for example, if you in Northstone, before you would put your men out, to do a job or something like that, you'd be risk assessing for everything, whether, depending on what they're doing, whether they're operating machinery or whether they're excavations or whatever, so you'd be trying to look at that risk assessment, trying to prevent or control that risk at source. So that's the way we're looking at the psychological hazards as well. It should be, and trying to keep it simple by using the like of that methodology. And as John mentioned earlier on, it is very hard for organisations to know where to start, but that's where we're here to help you and to help organisations. And I mean, we help the public sector, private sector, whoever approaches us. If we have the resources, we will try and do our best to mentor you through this. Now, organisations, lots of organisations have went and done it on their own, because that information is there and it's free to use. But sometimes, some organisations maybe found that they didn't get a lot of the survey results. Maybe only 50% of their staff have returned their survey. And for this to work and for you to get the proper information and, to make it worthwhile, you need like 80-90% of people to be returning the survey. If you want to find out the proper and the true, what is happening within your organisation currently. So again, I worked with an organisation and they had only half of their staff. And then when we came on board, we were just hosting the survey, and they had brought us in, and we had encouraged them, try and do it around some other initiative that you're doing within your organisation, or maybe coming up to World Mental Health Day or something like that. And we had encouraged them, and we got a 85% return rate. So again, it is there, but that is there for you to do. But if you feel that that it would help, if we can, we have the resources, we will help you with that. Or any organisation.
Yeah, there's no doubt that even with COVID, the whole thing has been exacerbated in the sense that as we encourage guys to not congregate in the canteen at the same time, at the start of the day, at the end of the day, at lunchtime and stuff. And there's guys, so they take their tea up the hill in the dumper or at their workstation, and it's amazing the effect of not having just that sitting around the table
yeah.
talking nonsense for 20 minutes.
Uh-huh,
You
I know.
has on people.
And even that peer support, you see, that's what you're talking about, the support and having that peer support, and you know, it may that's where that's very, very important. And you can see, especially maybe if they're operating a piece of machinery or equipment on their own, and maybe that's they look forward to having that bit of banter and bit of crack, you know.
That's right.
So you probably that's the kind of things you're probably, you know, noticing a lot in the organization then.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I just say, Brian, are you hosting these meetings yourself, or who's going to be hosting the workshops?
So, John.
All right, Brian.
Claire is hosting the workshops.
Right, okay.
You're going to see that space again.
Myself and Justine McIntyre are organising and gathering the interest, and obviously we've been in contact with all the County Down quarry operators, but the actual training will be delivered by Claire and the team.
And Selena and David.
The plan is, as I say, the December meeting, the December webinars, the first of 3 that is currently planned. But the intention is that there'll be a workshop for each county, and if there's any additional ones required, we'll get those organised in due course.
Oh, well, thank you, Claire. That was
No
fantastic tonight. really informative. Thank you for giving your time up this evening, and Selena there too, sitting.
Thinking, saying very little. You know what? The only one thing that I would add to what Claire has said is that, see, whenever staff realise that senior management are buying into something like this, in my experience, it's really, really appreciated. And I think especially at this moment in time, whenever we're in the middle of a pandemic, if staff see that management are that have their back and trying to do something for them, you know, it means a lot. And you know, like we're working with a company at the minute, and they're meant, the champion that they have appointed is absolutely fantastic. So if you are thinking of going down the line of the full process, your champion is extremely important. Who you choose, you know, to be your champion. You know, that's all really I have to add. I think Claire said maybe everything there is to say on that.
It's one of those subjects now that it just I don't know sometimes when to stop, so apologies.
Absolutely fantastic, Claire. Absolutely fantastic.
Not at all. You're very welcome.
Can I just ask David Johnson if he would do the vote of thanks, please?
Thanks, John. I remember being in the meeting and these sort of issues were being discussed years ago, and one of the senior managers turned around and he said, "For goodness sake, don't be starting to talk like that or we'll have a queue at the door." Thankfully, we've hopefully moved on a bit, but certainly, you know, we have looked at safety for many decades now, but we haven't really done health and safety, and it's something that as an industry and you know, as a nation, we're going to have to look at. It was a very clear, very informative discussion. It's certainly, you know, having to teach us at times, it's been really helpful to me, Claire, so thank you for that.
David, I actually think you taught, did you teach the NEBOSH construction a number of years ago? When I was looking at you, I was like, I recognize you.
Yes,
I did
and
NEBOSH
Mr. Beck
construction with you.
on the most one earlier in the year. It was indeed, yes. So it's been really helpful. It's something that we do.
You're very welcome.
And, you know, I would agree that taking the first step is very important, but I was quite interested in your 24 months review, that you've got to take a long view on this.
Yeah.
You gave us some statistics and maybe one that people aren't aware of. For possibly the last 20 years up until 2 years ago, manual handling issues were the main health problem in the nation, but that has now been overtaken by stress. And you know, a happy workforce is a productive workforce, so we need to look at this. And yes, it's a fine line between being intrusive and showing empathy.
Empathy.
But yeah, we've got to realise that people are under so much pressure with COVID-19 and the uncertainty. And uncertainty is change is one of the things that is one of the triggers for this. I think a lot of people now appreciate teachers a lot more having homeschooled. So we've all been presented with new challenges this year. So I would just like to thank you, Claire and Selena.
No problem.
I would like the members to show their appreciation in the usual way.
No, thank you.
Thank you.